everybody, Omar here, your knife of the party guy, and I am back with two fun-filled videos, and today we're going to be going over and highlighting the work of a man that I absolutely love, my one and only favorite South African knife maker of all time, Mr. Des Hoorn. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So this is sort of my Des Hoorn mini collection that I wanted to get into. After I do this video and highlight his work and explain why I love his work, we're going to go over what I picked up today at the Blade Gallery, which is in this pouch. Yeah! So let's go ahead and get right into it. So Des Hoorn, it's kind of important to highlight this man's work. He is one of the fathers of modern South African knife making. In my opinion, he, along with another knife maker named Owen Wood, and I'm so sad that I don't even have any of his knives in my collection, but I do plan on getting one of his knives in my collection soon. His work is absolutely exquisite. What I have on this table, believe it or not, is really just mediocre work of what the guy can actually do. In other words, none of the knives on this table, I think, really challenge what he can actually do as a knife artist. But it's what I have, and this is what we have to work with. And these knives are somewhat familiar to people who know Des Hoorn's work and are familiar with the way that he does his work. So let's get right into it. I've got 5 models here, and I'll tell you all the names of the models. This is the special custom made for me. This is the Des Hoorn Mvubu knife, and this model is probably his most popular model. All right, what makes this model so special is that it is the only model ever made that we know of. That is made with ball bearings. All of the other models like this knife are made with just washers. And the difference in smoothness, I have to say it's kind of minimal because what he can do with just washers is absolutely amazing, and you'll see that when I get down to this knife. The next knife here, this is called the Flip Booboo. This should not be confused with the Slim Booboo. The Slim Booboo does not have ball bearings on it, as far as I know. That is a washer knife. This one, the Flip Booboo, actually has ceramic ball bearings in it. And you can tell because any knife that Des Hoorn makes with ball bearings in it actually has this little emblem in there. You can't really see it, but it actually says ceramic ball bearings on it. So that's, that's pretty cool. And, yeah, so this knife is definitely one of the rare ones. The materials made on the knife, I forgot, I'll go over that real quick. The materials on this one is simply just G10 and carbon fiber. That looks like it's sort of somewhat polished to a high luster of some kind. Basically, it's 2 G10 inlays, and then he's got this carbon fiber. It's, as far as I understand it, it could be all one piece, I don't know. And then he polishes it up, so even G10 he can make look really, really pretty. Yeah, this is one of his more popular models, the Mvubu. And the Mvubu isn't really even a knife that the man enjoys, but it seems to be the knife that people tend to order most often. So this knife I would probably say is his bread and butter. The next knife here is more of an art knife. I have to go back a little bit. Yeah, the Flip Booboo is more of an art knife. You can find this knife made with a variety of different materials. In this case, we're talking about C-Tech and Damasteel bolsters. We've got the file work on the back of that done by hand. And we've got a carbon fiber back spacer on this one. Proprietary pocket clip. He doesn't really do much with pocket clips, Des Hoorn, simply because his philosophy on knife making is to not have a pocket clip. He would much rather just give you a nice pouch that the knife comes in. you know, for you to put it in your pocket. He thinks that maybe the pocket clip concept kind of destroys the artwork of the knife, so, you know, it distracts it. And I respect that. You know, whatever the artist believes is what I respect, and that's how I like to have my knife made. The way he wants his knife to be made is the way, and the way he envisions it is the way I want it. I'm not someone that's going to alter his original concept just to suit, because I want the knife made a certain way. Another thing about Des Horn, again, you're never going to find the words made by hand more associated than with Des Horn. He's the gentleman that really, really modernized made by hand techniques. Now, I'm not very sure, okay, but I'm going to guess that these screws here, because you find these on a lot of Des Horn knives, I'm assuming that the man makes his own screws. I'm just guessing. I don't know. I'm gonna probably have to ask him. But these are not proprietary screws that you're seeing on this knife. They look more like jewelry, which is interesting. Oh, nobody died. And yeah, and obviously the file work on the back of the knife. You're not going to see that on any other knife. This wave sort of pattern as far as the file work is done. Now, file work is also seen in Andre Thorburn's work and Arucas Lumeris's work, but I can't help but believe that, yeah, Des Horn is definitely one of the first ones to do that on a knife. Now, keep in mind, this is done by hand. The file work is done by hand. The entire knife is made completely by hand. There are no machines that are used to make this knife. And if you look very closely on all of Des Horn's knife, you'll find some imperfections on there. That is intended so that, you know, in other words, to make the knife made by hand the way that, to show off that it was made by hand, you will find some imperfections. And those are things that you'll have to accept as an artist's quirk. And I'm perfectly happy with that. You know, because you're not going to get that perfect millimeter, you know, one side is perfectly even, the other side is not. You'll find that in production, but to do that by hand, I will guarantee you there are knife makers that do that to the best of their ability, and those little minute imperfections on the knife, you'll find that even less and less with Des Horn's work. I can't even find any on this one. So C-Tech is a material that is made with resin and steel and some other materials all mixed in together. But what makes C-Tech so amazing is if you look at this knife, you'd swear it's carbon fiber. And it's not. This is some kind of a honeycomb steel mesh that's underneath it. And again, he does the high polish luster on there. And in the light, you can see that it kind of changes colors a bit. You know, so it adds another kind of dimension to his knife making. So he can make even materials that are man-made like C-Tech into a real sculpted work of art. The next knife is what we call, or actually the next two knives, are what we call the ball release models. These are now Des Horn attempting to do something with art in the mechanics part of the of knives. The ball release is just really a very, very special mechanism that's created by him, and I think I can pretty much see how explain how this works. It's kind of hard to see it, but if you look closer. So basically, on the inside of the knife, there is a bar that is, I believe it looks like it's cut out from the original titanium liner. I'm guessing, because I can't see that well, even in this light. But if you look closely, the liner kind of juts out and goes up and underneath this folding pivot part of the knife. And it's right at the part where it's centered to prevent that blade play, which is unbelievable. And keep in mind, he does this by hand. So if you look inside the knife, you'll see there's this sort of like sculpted by hand, almost like a half a V going in there. And he has to sculpt that so that it aligns flatly and perfectly with this piece of titanium liner that is tucked underneath it to prevent the blade play, and this has no blade play on it. So the way it works is he has this mercury ball, which is more like a button. You press it, and if I hold it up to the camera, you can see you press it, and it pushes that titanium liner out of the way so you can close the knife. And you let go of the ball, and now it's shut. And then you open it, that liner now clicks back in. That whole mechanism is made by hand. And I think that a lot of that gets lost in the translation of what this guy does. You need to really appreciate that work in order to really get into Des Horn's artistry and mechanics. I mean, the guy does amazing things with knives. In fact, like I said before, what's on this table is literally just, it doesn't even touch the surface of what this guy's work is. What I'm saying to you guys is that you need to go to his website, and you need to check out the knives that he really is well known for. You're going to see some crafted works of art that are absolutely insane. Just to give you an example before I get into this knife here, just to give you an example, he has this one knife that is my dream knife, my dream Des Horn knife. It's called the Double Action Credit Card Automatic Knife, and that knife is $5,000 basic. And the knife is absolutely beautiful. You can check it out on YouTube. In fact, you can check it out on YouTube with Des Horn describing the knife to you and how he made it himself. And at the end of the video, I kind of chuckle. He kind of chuckles at you, and you chuckle at him. And that chuckle that he makes in the video is kind of like him telling you that he is that good. And he doesn't mind sharing it with you, but he does it in sort of like a modest way. Anyway, back to the video. On this knife, we've got the Shinkansen front flipper. And this knife is probably one of the knives that he makes that is inspired by something, by another object. He went to Japan in the early 1990s, and he saw the Shinkansen bullet trains that went by, and he saw that the front of the train had this sort of downward swoop, and so he decided to create a knife based on that bullet train, and this is it. It's called the Shinkansen front flipper bullet model, and it looks like a train, basically. So this is one of his knives that's inspired work. And it's also one of the smoothest knives I've ever had, with the ball release that only runs on washers. So again, you can see it's more pronounced here. When you press the button, you can see that that piece of titanium gets out of the way. Now you can close the knife, let go of the button, and basically that's how it works. And this is one of the few knives that I can open and close with one-handed. Right, and then you just sort of pop it open and then close it. It's very, very smooth, only on washers. We've got Damasteel bolsters. We've got the mercury ball once again, and we've got lightning strike carbon fiber on the knife with a beautiful Damasteel blade. Whoops. Yeah, beautiful Damasteel blade, and on the back there's the familiar file work, and you have to look kind of closely, but that's actually a Damasteel backspacer on that guy. Just a beautiful, beautiful knife. The last knife is probably, to me, more of a wonder at this stage. We've got the Des Horn Booboo once again, which is the same model as this one, but this one doesn't have ball bearings in it. It's a lot thinner if you take a look at the knives. I've done this before in one of my other videos, but if you look at the knife, this one's much thicker to make room for the ball bearing pivot versus this one, which is a lot thinner. Let me put that down. It's a lot thinner, and it doesn't have ball bearings, but check this out. No ball bearings. Look how that thing practically falls shut. And there is there's no blade play on this whatsoever. There's none. Just simple brass, I guess it's brass washers? Or phosphor bronze, I'm sorry. Phosphor bronze washers that everybody uses. But he is just the master of that kind of knife making, where you don't really need the ball bearings. He believes in the less is more, and most of his knives do not have ball bearings in it. He's been making knives long before the ball bearing concept came out, so he had a much longer time perfecting the washer theory. That you can just make a really great knife that falls shut smooth on just simple washers. Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite knives to carry. This is actually a user, which is probably why I'm going to contact us and make another one. Because I do love this one. I do love this knife. I carry it quite a bit. It's probably one of my most often carried knives, just because of the simplicity of it and the fact that it doesn't have ball bearings on it. You know, again, proprietary pocket clip. We've got a carbon fiber backspacer on this one. And of course, again, the file work, which seems to be different on every knife that he makes that I see. Not different, but most of the time it's different, depending on the model and the make. I love that he does backspacers completely enclosed. I only have two gripes about backspacers, is that I love the fully open, where you would see like just a pivot and one standoff. I love that, and then I love it where it's completely enclosed like this. I'm not a fan of those, like those half backspacer ones. You know, where the backspacer comes up to about here. So yeah, I mean, Des Hoorn, being one of the fathers of South African knife making, him along with Freddie Lagrange, who was, you know, at the very beginning of modernizing knife making, because before those guys, all the South African knife makers used to just do slip joints, which there are still slip joint South African knife makers today making some beautiful slip joints. You know, guys like Willem O'Kelly, and you may want to check out J.D. Ellis, who's absolutely legendary slip joint knife maker, and that's pretty much all he makes. In fact, I only have one slip joint from that gentleman. I need to get another one someday. So I will be contacting him sometime soon. But in any case, yeah, Des Hoorn, Owen Wood, Freddie Lagrange, those three guys kind of made way for Andre Thorburn and Rufus Lumeris and all the other guys that come underneath them. They were coming right around afterwards. So they were kind of like at the dawn of you know, modern South African knife making. But I mean, if you want to get more specific, you could probably say that, you know, Andre Thorburn or Rufus Lumeris, those older guys, John Arnold, those older guys, they kind of introduced the ball bearing concept, and it kind of moved forward into there. And now there are even more newer South African knife makers that are doing newer things with the mechanics of knives. But as you can see, what's on this table, there's good reason to celebrate Des Hoorn, because simply even for this mercury ball that he makes, or I'm sorry, the ball release models that he makes are just absolutely spectacular. And the fact that nothing on this table was made by machine makes it truly an art knife, as opposed to something that was made by CNC machine. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of CNC knife makers out there that I absolutely love. It's just comparing apples to oranges, you can't do it. But for tradition, yeah, Des Hoorn. Myself being an old school guy, I love old school art, and Des Hoorn represents the best of that. So I just want to do this quick video and showcase this man's work. And we're now going to get into part 2 of this video, where I'm going to show you what's in this case. This is my new Des Hoorn knife. You're going to see this in a few minutes here. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I'll see you guys in a few minutes. Thanks so much for watching, and I will be back for part 2.